Learn how to crochet a Sunburst Granny Square with this easy Sunburst Granny Square pattern. It's a gorgeous and quick crochet granny square pattern that you can turn into a blanket, bag, pillow, and more.
Hello from Halifax. I'm Jo with Jo the World Creations.
We're going to be getting right to the video tutorial. If you prefer to follow along with written instructions, or if you're looking for some ideas of what to make with these granny squares, check out the links in the description below this video. For this pattern, you can use any size 4 medium yarn. For a hook size, use an eye hook. We're going to start with color A. This is this butterscotch color that I've used here. For this video tutorial, to ensure it's easy to see what I'm doing, I'll be using this gold color yarn for color A. With our color A, we're going to start by making a magic circle. This is how I make a magic circle. I have another video showing how to do this step by step slowly that I will link to in the description below this video. Now we're going to start round 1 and we're going to continue using color A. To start round 1, we're going to chain 1. Now we're going to make 12 double crochet stitches into the magic circle. Yarn over, insert your hook into the magic circle, yarn over and pull up a loop. 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull the yarn through the first 2 loops. 2 loops left on your hook. Yarn over and pull the yarn through the 2 remaining loops. And there's our first double crochet stitch. We're going to make a total of 12 double crochet stitches into the magic circle. There's 2. There's 3. You go ahead and make 12 double crochet stitches into this magic circle and come back to the video. I've just made 12 double crochet stitches into this magic circle. In this pattern, chains never count as stitches. So we're only going to count our double crochet stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Now we're going to pull our starting tail tight to close the magic circle. To finish the round, we are going to slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet stitch that we made in the round to join. Working into the top of this first double crochet stitch, slip stitch to join. Now we're going to begin round 2. We're going to continue using color A. To start round 2, we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. We are not going to turn. We're going to continue working in the same direction. And we're going to start the round by working into the very first stitch, the stitch that's attached to that chain 2 we just made, and it's the same stitch that we slip stitched into. Into this stitch, we are going to make a double crochet stitch. Working into this first stitch, double crochet. Now we're going to begin the repeat portion of the round. This is what we're going to be repeating all the way around. We're going to start by chaining 2. 1, 2. Now we're going to work into the next stitch. And in this stitch, we are going to make a double crochet 2 together, all in the same stitch. To do this, we're going to yarn over, insert a hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull the yarn through the first 2 loops. 2 loops left on your hook. Now we're going to yarn over and insert a hook into the same stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. We now have 4 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull the yarn through the first 2 loops. 3 loops left on your hook. Yarn over and pull the yarn through the remaining 3 loops. And there's our first double crochet 2 together. And this counts as 1 stitch. Those are the steps we're going to repeat all the way around. Let's do it again. Chain 2, 1, 2. In the next stitch, double crochet 2 together. And there's our next double crochet 2 together. One more time, chain 2. In the next stitch, double crochet 2 together. You go ahead and repeat those steps all the way around. I'm almost finished working all the way around. I have one last stitch to work into. This is my last stitch here. It can get confusing because the slip stitch that joined the previous round can sometimes look like a stitch, but we don't ever work into that slip stitch or count that as a stitch. This is the last stitch right here. And I'm continuing the same steps, chain 2, in the last stitch, double crochet 2 together. As a reminder, anytime we made a chain, that does not count as a stitch. We're only going to count the first double crochet stitch that we made, and then each double crochet 2 together. At the end of this round, you should have a total of 12 stitches. The first double crochet stitch that we made is the first, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. To finish the round, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet stitch that we made in the round. Working the top of this first double crochet stitch, slip stitch to join. To start round 3, we're going to begin by fastening off color A. So you can remove your hook, and we are going to cut the yarn that's attached to your skein. I like to leave approximately 8 inches so I have enough yarn to weave in my ends. Cut the yarn that's attached to your skein and pull the tail through the loop that was on your hook and pull tight. Next, we're going to change to color B. I've used this fern color for color B. Now we're going to attach color B to the first chain 2 space. We're going to continue working in the same direction. We're not going to turn. So the first chain 2 space is right next to where we just fastened off and joined the previous round. The next chain 2 space is this space right here, underneath the 2 chains that we made. And this, for this first chain 2 space, it's in between the double crochet and the first double crochet 2 together. So we're going to start by inserting our hook right here. Insert your hook into the first chain 2 space. Take your color B and place it on your hook and pull it through the chain 2 space. Now we're going to chain 1. It's okay if your color B is very loose. It'll tighten up once we weave in our loose ends. We are going to continue working into this first chain 2 space. Into this first chain 2 space, we are going to make 2 half double crochet stitches in the same space. Yarn over, insert your hook into the same or first chain 2 space, yarn over and pull up a loop. 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and bring that yarn through all 3 loops. There's our first half double crochet stitch, and we're going to make another in the same space. Now we have 2 half double crochet stitches in the first chain 2 space. Now we're going to work into the next chain 2 space. And into this next chain 2 space, we're going to make 3 half double crochet stitches, all in the same space. Working into this next chain 2 space, make a half double crochet stitch. There's my first of 3. Now let's make another. There's my second of 3. And my third of 3. Now we're going to work into the next chain 2 space, and we're going to make our first corner. Working into this next chain 2 space, we're going to do the following. We're going to make 2 double crochet stitches. There's 1 double crochet stitch. Still working in the same space. Let's make another. There's my second double crochet stitch. Now we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. Still working in the same space, we're going to make 2 more double crochet stitches. There's my next double crochet stitch, and we're going to make 1 more. And there's our first corner, now complete. Now we're going to begin the repeat portion of the round. This is what we're going to be repeating all the way around. In the next chain 2 space, we're going to make 3 half double crochet stitches. There's 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to repeat that again in the next chain 2 space. So in the next chain 2 space, make 3 half double crochet stitches. 1, 2, 3. The instructions for the rest of the round are to repeat these steps all the way around. In the next chain 2 space, make 3 half double crochet stitches. There's 3. In the next chain 2 space, make 3 half double crochet stitches. 3. In the next chain 2 space, which is a corner, we're going to make 2 double crochet stitches. Chain 2, and in the same space, make 2 more double crochet stitches. Still repeating those steps all the way around. First part is to make 3 half double crochet stitches in the next chain 2 space. In the next space, make 3 half double crochet stitches. And the final step is to work into this last chain 2 space and make our fourth and final corner. Working into this last chain 2 space, make 2 double crochet stitches, chain 2, and 2 more double crochet stitches. At the end of this round, you should have a total of 39 stitches. To finish the round, we're going to slip stitch in the top of the first half double crochet stitch that we made in the round. Working in the top of this first half double crochet stitch, slip stitch to join. Now we're going to fasten off color B. You don't need to weave in your ends until you're finished your square. I'm going to take a quick minute to do so, just so that my ends aren't flailing all around. You can clearly see what I'm doing. I've just weaved in all my ends except for color B that we just fastened off. We've just finished round 3, and there are 16 spaces that we are going to be working into on round 4. thought it'd be helpful to quickly point out where these spaces are, and then we'll go into detail when we do round 4. The first places that we're going to work is this cluster space. A cluster in this pattern is a group of either 2 or 3 stitches, and we're going to be working in between these clusters until we get to the corner chain 2 space, and then we'll be working right into the corner chain 2 space. Then we're going to go back to working in between clusters of stitches. So we'll be inserting our hook right in between these clusters, and I call them cluster spaces. Now we're going to change to color C. I've used this misty blue color for color C. Here is where we fastened off color B. We're going to continue working in the same direction. We're not going to turn. And the first place we're going to work into is the first cluster space, which is in between the first 2 half double crochet stitches and the group of 3 half double crochet stitches. So we're going to insert our hook right here in the first cluster space. Insert your hook into the first cluster space and take color C and place it on your hook and pull it through the first cluster space. Now we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. Once again, it's okay if it's a little loose. It will tighten up once you've weaved in your loose ends. We're going to continue working into this the same cluster space. Into this same or first cluster space, we're going to make 2 double crochet stitches. There's 1. And there's 2. Now we're going to work into the next cluster space. This is the space between the 3 half double crochet stitches and the 2 double crochet stitches that started the corner. So insert your hook right here. Working into this next cluster space, we're going to make 3 double crochet stitches. There's 1. There's 2. And there's 3. Next, we're going to be working into the corner chain 2 space. Working into this chain 2 space, we are going to do the following. We're going to make 3 double crochet stitches. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to chain 2 and working in the same chain 2 space into the same corner space, we're going to make 3 more double crochet stitches. 1, 2, 3. And our first corner's now complete. Now we're going to begin the repeat portion of the round. This is what we're going to be repeating all the way around until there's 1 cluster space left. We are going to be working in the next cluster space. So this is the space between the corner double crochet stitches and the group of 3 half double crochet stitches. Here we're going to make 3 double crochet stitches. Working in the next cluster space, 3 double crochet stitches. Now we're going to work into the next cluster space. It's the space between these 3 half double crochet stitches and the next 3 half double crochet stitches. Into the next cluster space, make 3 double crochet stitches. 2 and 3. In And then we're going to work into the next cluster space. This one is between the 3 half double crochet stitches and the 2 corner double crochet stitches, and we'll be doing the same thing. Into this next cluster space, 3 double crochet stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Now working into the corner chain 2 space, we're going to do the same thing that we did at the previous corner. Into this corner chain 2 space, make 3 double crochet stitches, 2, 3, chain 2, make 3 more, 1, 2, and 3. You're going to repeat these steps all the way around until you have 1 cluster space left. So you'll be repeating those steps. We just finished making a corner, so you're going to do this all the way around, making the 3rd corner, then make the 4th corner, and then come back to the video and we'll work into this last cluster space together. I've just finished my 4th and final corner, and I have 1 last cluster space to work into. Here's the last cluster space, and into this last cluster space we're going to make 3 double crochet stitches. Working into this last cluster space, make 3 double crochet stitches. At the end of this round, you should have 59 stitches. We are now going to use the invisible join technique to finish the round. We're going to start by cutting the yarn that's attached to our skein, leaving about an 8-inch tail. Now we're going to pull the end of this tail through the stitch, and don't worry, it's not going to come undone. We're just going to pull the tail until it comes through the stitch. Now we're going to put this tail through our yarn needle. With the tail now on our yarn needle, we are going to go from front to back through the top of the first double crochet stitch that we made in the round. So I'm taking my yarn needle, going from front to back through the top 2 loops of that first double crochet stitch and pull the tail all the way through that stitch. Now we're going to insert our yarn needle through the back loop only of the last double crochet stitch that we just made. So I'm just going to adjust my yarn so that we can easily see what we're doing here. Here's the back loop of the last stitch that we just made. So we're going to insert our yarn needle into the back loop, but we're also going to insert it into this loop that is parallel to the back loop. See how there's the back loop goes from here to here, and then there's another loop that's a little smaller, but it's completely parallel. We're going to insert our hook from the top down to the bottom and go through the back loop and the loops that's parallel here. And bring that tail all the way through. And you can see we now have what resembles a stitch. We're now going to weave in this loose end, but we need to be a little careful. We don't want to be pulling this too tight. I'll show you what happens if we pull it too tight. That invisible join goes away. So as we're weaving in our loose end, we want to be checking on these 2 loops regularly to make sure that it continues to resemble a stitch. So we're going to weave in our loose ends. And every time you pull that tail, just check that it's not too tight and continue to keep it nice and loose, but we want this end to be very, very secure so it doesn't come apart. So I find the best way to keep it nice and secure is to continuously change directions. Go under these stitches here. And then change directions. And I would do this multiple times, hiding the tail while also keeping it nice and secure. And I would go back and forth while always checking on how this invisible join stitch is looking. Once you're happy with how it looks and also how secure your end is, simply cut your yarn. And now you have a beautiful invisible join. And the last step is to weave in all your other ends. And now you have a new Sunburst Granny Square. If you'd like, you can now block your squares. Blocking can help correct any curling and can help shape your work. I block my squares by pinning them down on a blocking board with rust-proof pins, and then I spray it with water, get it nice and wet, and leave it to dry.
If you're wondering what to make with these granny squares, check out the links in the description below this video.
I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, I'd love if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you again and have a wonderful day.